I think as soon as there was like some chaos and like drama in my life, I was like, did not hesitate to like pick up a pen and start writing. I don't know how you couldn't.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Thanks for coming in. I'm all right.
Good. Good.
Congrats on the record. It's great.
Thank you.
You happy with it?
I am beyond happy with it. I am. It feels good to have. It's a very cliche thing, but to have something out that I'm very proud of, and that I'm like proud to be singing every night on tour. It's nice to enjoy what I'm singing on stage.
What brought you to LA in the first place? I want to talk about the homesickness thing.
I was in school in Pittsburgh for film, and I was in my third year, and by the end of my first year, I hated film school, and knew that was already like a mistake. I still loved film, and like I was actively shooting things and editing things and directing things, but I just knew film school was not for me. And as I started to kind of disconnect with my classes, I was introduced to the concept of being able to like record yourself. There were kids on my dorm floor who were like passing out CDs and mixtapes, and I was like, how did you even whatever? And they showed me
how did you even do this? Like,
yeah.
How is this even possible?
And so they introduced me to Logic and all these things, and they like legally downloaded onto my laptop, and were like, dude, try it. And I fell in love with it like immediately. I've had a lot of phases in my life and things and hobbies that I've fallen in love with, but nothing has like impacted me and took over my entire brain the way that music did when I first found it. And slowly started failing school like really bad because of how much I was just loving being in my little closet making music. Was putting things out on SoundCloud, whatever. I had put out my first EP, Arizona in the Summer, and I was just at a point where I could not keep failing school at that point. Like, it was really bad. 2 years of like Fs and everything. And I was keeping it a secret from my parents, and I was like, if nothing happens with this EP, I need to figure something out. I need to like truly try in school for once. And during that window, like a miracle, this guy, Quentin, who is Mac Miller's manager at the time, reached out to me over DM and was like, hey, this EP is amazing. Mac really likes this song, Stolen Car. And I just lost it. And long story short, he flew me out to like meet and work with Malcolm for like a short window, and that spread throughout, I guess, other labels and stuff, and word got out, and I started getting invited to come out to LA. I was just waiting for an excuse to like move there, and I finally had one, and like a solid way to tell my parents like, hey, this thing is working. There's possibly money that could be made from this, and it's on paper now, so it was like nice to have something to show them. And I moved.
What were the expectations of living in LA versus the realities of living in LA?
Right, that's the question.
Give me the expectations first.
I guess expectations, I was like,
fame and fortune and mink coats and jewelry and
like, not really. I'm not. I'm from Maine, so like I didn't even have that. I guess from like movies, but I just didn't have that concept in my head. I was just like, we didn't really have studios, and so my dream was to like go to a place where there's like an abundance of studios. My dream was to literally just like be in a studio all day. Like, that just sounded fun, and it was like what being an artist was. And so I was like, I have to go to LA to do this, which is silly now looking back, but that was my expectation. And to be honest, that is what I did for a year. I was living in like Airbnbs for a little bit, and then I finally got a place in West Hollywood, and I just was in the studio all day just trying to make music. Outside of being in the studio, it was just extremely lonely. My best friends in the world I grew up with, we've been best friends since kindergarten, and I just, having a very solid group of friends like that kind of like it's a blessing, but it messes you up in a little bit of a way where it's made it really hard for me to even want to try and make friends that are anything like that.
Yeah, they were so close, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it was just like, I'm never gonna replace this. So like, why even try and be social in this city? Which is dumb, but I was young, and so it was just lonely. And I think a lot of people would agree with that about LA. And it took me until like a year ago to finally have like a beautiful group of friends out there. But
How did the loneliness and homesickness manifest itself? I'll give you something on me now. So I'm from Newfoundland and I moved to Toronto, and that's really different cultural move. And I had a great group of friends, and I moved up here for this job. Like I moved up here not for Q, but the job before I had this, but to work here. And looking back, I thought I was just lonely. But I also look at those years and I go, well, like, why was I smoking so much weed? You know, why was I doing that every night? Why was I drinking so much? Why was I doing all this stuff? What was I trying? You know, why was I maybe not looking after myself? And now one thing that listening to your record made me think about was that was probably homesickness, and that was probably loneliness, and that was just manifesting itself through the behaviors I wasn't like sitting down saying I'm so sad and drinking, but I was probably doing something to try and deal with that.
100%. I relate to that heavily. I was like, for the first time in my life was like smoking so much weed, which I never did, and same thing. I was just drowning out something and not wanting to like actually analyze it. But yeah, I think it was homesickness. I'm like, it took me a little while to realize how lucky I was to grow up where I grew up, and it's just a story that's as old as, you know, whatever, but you just don't appreciate it until you leave it, and you realize how lucky you were.
Did it change when you got back? I sometimes found that like I had idealized it. Where in Maine are you from?
I'm from a town called Cape Elizabeth. It's like 10 minutes outside of Portland.
So I found when I would go home, I had this idea of what my home was that I had been idealizing on my couch in Toronto. Oh, if I can only get back there, that's where, and I would get back there. And sometimes it would do it. Sometimes it'd be like, oh, this is just what I was missing. But sometimes I go, oh, they're all moving on here. Like they've moved on too, you know, like their lives are changing. Things can't stay as they are. How you did go back to Maine eventually. How was that?
I mean, I went back a lot. I still go back a lot. And to be honest, like, yeah, things change. And I used to go home a long time ago, I used to go home, especially when I was like in college and stuff, or like right when I had gone to LA and I would go home, I would see people that I went to high school with that hadn't left yet and that were getting very comfortable where they grew up and working a 9 to 5 in that town. Yeah. And it used to make me like sad. I used to just want to be like, yo, do something with your life. But now I'm at a point where I get it and I actually empathize with it. And I'm like, you know what, that sounds nice. Like there are times when I'm just like, I would love to just drop everything and just move home and just have a very simple life. But I used to definitely like judge a little bit. But now there's a lot of comfort in all those things when I go home, like seeing those people still. Even if they're like married now, it makes me feel old or whatever. But yeah, I like the familiar things,
rhythms of being back home. It's a different rhythm than LA.
It's comforting. It's like everything I know.
Can you connect the dots on, because the story? I mean, I can only follow what I read about you and in the press, but like the story I get told in reading about you is that something happens when you go back to Maine one time. And your sound changes, like that you were making sort of more rap and hip hop. I don't even know if that's the case, like, but just different music than you're making now.
Yes.
And then the story I get told in the press is that you go home and something clicks, and then you start listening to Americana music or country music or folk music. What's the reality there?
So it was, when I first started making music, that was when it was like rap and whatever, and that's like how I got into music because of the scene in Pittsburgh.
And is that what Mac Miller found? He found that stuff.
That wasn't really, I guess there was definitely a hip hop influence in it, but that was when like bedroom pop was. Yeah. It was when like the Claros and the Gus Dappertons. It was kind of living in that world, not really like rap. So I guess like indie bedroom pop.
Sure.
But So it started when when I started Kansas Anymore, or before it was even that was what it was gonna be. But when I had to start my second album, I was lost. I was throwing paint at the wall. It was just the normal, what am I gonna do here? Like, what is this gonna be? And so I was just trying everything. At first, I was like, let's do an '80s album, and committed to that for 2 months, and it was garbage. It was horrible. It was the most disingenuine thing.
Yeah.
It,
A lot of synths, a lot of
yeah,
old sounding synths. You kind of put on a costume when you make that
exactly.
music. Yeah,
It sounded like I was like doing karaoke.
Yeah.
Like it was not for me.
Yeah.
So we X'd that. And I was like, let's keep trying things. We tried whatever. We tried a lot of things, and nothing was like feeling like me. And that was really what I was searching for, is like, what is going to bring out like a genuine version of me. And so I kind of put the pen down for like a little bit and just started going home, just to get out of LA and to like, whatever, reconnect with something. And when I go home a lot, I listen to like just a lot of music that feels like Maine to me.
Like what? Let's get some names here.
Let's get some names.
Let's get some names here.
Yeah. So Camp is one. And I don't know if you know Camp.
No.
CAAMP. And I think they're out of New England. And it's just a very specific sound. Kurt Vile, I love to death. He got me through that whole year. And I mean, War on Drugs too. I don't know if that is really the main vibe, but I'm obsessed with War on Drugs. Just some of those like warmer, Zach Bryan was a big thing too, and just warmth, acoustic.
So newer. I when I was listening to it, because my touchstone in that music, that's the sort of the music that I come from. My touchstone on the music would be artists from the '60s and '70s, and your Jackson Browns and your Eagles.
That
too. You know,
Jackson Brown was a big one. My mom was obsessed with him when I was growing up, and I never got it until later in my life, and that was heavily on rotation, as well as like Van Morrison. She loved a lot of that like Sunday morning Americana.
Tom Petty, Neil Young.
Just reminds me of her like cleaning the house, which I used to hate, and now I love.
You are growing up.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, that's what this whole interview is about. Me realizing I'm old.
No, man, I get it. I remember when I went from. It sounds silly too. I remember when I went from. I don't really care to. I like when my house is neat, so I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And I remember when I went to my parents' music is pretty good.
Yeah.
So you're going home and listening to Camp, and you're listening to who I feel uncool because Vanessa nodded at me that she knows who Camp are.
Yeah.
And then Kurt Vile, who's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the folks that Kurt Vile would have listened to,
Mm-hmm.
and Petty and Neil Young and all these guys.
Yeah.
And then you're like that. In the movie version of this, you go, Eureka, that's it. That's my sound.
Right. Well, I started to like, it just was in my brain because that was all I was listening to all of a sudden. And so I went back to LA and was just like, that was the world in my head, just sonically. And I just didn't want to like bring it to the producer yet. I wanted to start writing songs in that world, and so in my living room I just started writing some things on guitar and doing it the way I started making music, which was in a closet by myself. And so it was just a full circle moment of like, I found the sound sonically. I wanted this folky Americana but still pop sound, and then also I had songs that I was writing and being genuine in my living room without having someone tapping me on the shoulder being like, hey, you got that chorus yet? Like, hey, how's the verse coming?
Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing. I mean, when you're starting to make songs with a producer in the room, yeah, naturally they're gonna like turn around and be like, how's it going? Or like, where are we? How's the verse coming? Or they'll like tweak things before you're done writing, which can be really intrusive. I get it, but it can be intrusive. And so I think those two things is what brought me to figuring out what the album was going to be.
Well, you got left alone. It sounds like you got
Exactly.
left alone to make the music that was in your mind, and you got to. That's so unfamiliar to me. That way of making music is. I mean, I have friends who do it, and I have friends who are the people who are tapping people on the shoulders.
Yeah.
But in my mind, the idea of making a record is you come in with a song that's a verse and a chorus. You know what I mean? You have it, and this is my expression, and then please sharpen it for me, and let's gussy it up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It sounds like you were able to be yourself.
Yeah.
Is it the style of the music? Is it the growth you had done at that point? But it also, from my reading, there's a demarcation around you're a little more personal now than you were before. Not to say that your music before wasn't personal, that it was about Fanta, but like you're able to be more personal now. This is obviously a hallmark of the genre, of the style. But I don't know. I don't think you were sitting down writing confessional personal songs because that's what is expected of you as an Americana artist. Like what caused it?
I was just going through, honestly, it was like a quarter life crisis is like what I think I was going through. If I really look back at that year or 2 years where I was just like in a relationship, but wanting to, a relationship that lived in LA, but me constantly running away from LA and wanting to be somewhere different, usually Maine. Sometimes it was Nashville, whatever. I just wanted to get out of LA all the time. And it was just this like mess of, when I was in LA, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Yes, I'm like in love, but what am I doing with my life? I'm not happy here. What does that mean? And just all these like weird, just an existential like moment in my life. And mixed that with like homesickness and then that relationship kind of falling apart through all this stuff, which makes sense because I think from someone else's perspective, it'd be like, why are you not happy here?
Yeah.
Why are you running home?
Yeah.
Why are you disappearing
Is
constantly?
this not enough here?
Yes.
You know, yeah, I get
And
you.
so I get that, and it's like, it would be confusing. And so that fell apart. I was falling apart. It was just a combination of things in a quarter life crisis that ended up all becoming songs.
But you could have not sang about it. That's my point. Like,
For sure.
I feel like there would have been music you had made before that wouldn't have been about. Had you been going through any of that stuff, it wouldn't have come out. What I find interesting is that you sang about that stuff at all.
I think, yeah. Well, I couldn't imagine not doing it. But also, I think I was in like a really happy relationship for a long time, and sometimes there's not a lot of sadly, like I hate saying this because sometimes
You don't have to say anything you don't want to say.
whatever. No, I just think that there's not so much inspiration in that. Sometimes it's hard to like write a lot of like any moving music when you're in like a healthy, happy relationship.
You're right.
And it's disgusting to say, and like artists are the worst for this, but like it I think as soon as there was like some chaos and like drama in my life, I was like, did not hesitate to like pick up a pen and start writing. I don't know how you couldn't. I guess I was trying to capitalize on it, which is gross, but you know.
Hey, watch it.
Hey.
Watch it. That's my buddy Tucker you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's or you know what another term for that is my friend says, why waste your suffering?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about capitalizing on it. It's if you're suffering, why waste it? Why not to get something out of it? Why not try to learn something from it? Why not try to offer something through it?
Exactly.
If I can offer you a sunnier way of looking at it, if I may dare to do that.
100%. I think that's a better way to say it, for sure.
I think it's a better way, not the way to say it, better way to think about it. Like, listen, I'm just reading me this as someone who like beat myself up for a long time. So maybe I'm just like really, I'm hyper aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mean to call you out on it.
No, that's good. I knew it.
Because I think what you did is you didn't waste your suffering, and you turned it into something that people are really, relating to, not just loving, but really relating to.
Right.
And that has to be meaningful.
Yeah, it is, and I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. I was not expecting to. I don't know. I since I started making music, my fan base from the beginning has always been primarily majority women, which I love, and like it's, to me, that's like best case scenario as an artist, like having a primarily female fan base is best case scenario. They are like the most loyal, passionate type of fans ever. And so I guess when I was writing the album, I was like a little bit weary because a lot of it is me talking about just my faults in a relationship and kind of ripping myself apart as I do, as you also just saw me do.
Hey, as I do, as we all do.
Anyways, I was just like worried that maybe they wouldn't connect with it because it's a man talking about being a shitty man in a relationship. And to my surprise,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah.
which is a silly way to think about it because it's not that deep. Like, people are going to relate to things like whatever that connects with them, and they can put themselves in your shoes no matter. It's like not about gender or anything. It's just, you know, a relatable situation, I realized. But I did not have expectations for people to connect with it in the way they did.
The interesting challenge that happens right now is when you leave LA and go to Maine and get this sort of newfound inspiration, and the inspiration when you come back is very much like, man, I got to be myself. I got to write about what I'm really feeling. I have to write these songs without someone tapping on my shoulder, and these things come out of me. And lo and behold, these things explode. They get huge. And now you're in a really interesting situation where, and I'm not just trying to pump up your tires here, but like it's quite big right now, and hundreds of millions of streams and people chasing you down the street, and a lot of people coming to your shows, and you're getting written. I mean, when I'm Googling you, you're getting written about it in a lot of different places. And I've just talked to artists like this before. It's like the getting away from it all was the ticket. And then the getting away from it all led to being brought back into it in some ways. How have you been finding, what's the hardest part of it, of trying to hold on to that thing that you found and not letting this newfound fame and success interfere with the thing that gave you what you needed? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do, and that's a good question. One, I talk to my friends that I brought up earlier. I talk to them every day.
Yeah.
Those are my best friends. I just saw them in New York, and we hung out for the day, and they keep me grounded. When we talk every day, and when we talk, we never talk about music or anything that's going on in my career. We talk about like our sex lives and like just dumb shit.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And just like the same way it was in high school. And so that keeps my head away from it. And then also like, as far as like getting back into the studio and having time to actually do what I love, which is being in the studio and making music, I think I just have to put my foot down and make sure that is the priority right now. Because there's a lot of things now coming up and sessions being moved or canceled because of new things popping up, and that
photo
is like
shoots or
it's killing me. And so I think I just need to make sure I put my foot down when I can, to make sure that the most important part of this is being protected and that I can still do it.
And I think the hardest part is done. I think the hardest part is figuring out what the stuff you wanted to say and how you wanted your message to come out. And it's no surprise to me that people are connecting with it. And
Thank you.
I think it's a really lovely record.
Thank you.
I think you made a great record. We're going to play Sally When the Wine Runs Out, which is the big hit.
It's the big one.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Anything you want to say to Oasis? I'm only joking.
Stop modding with your brother.
Stop with your brother.